There is a moment, just before sleep takes you, when the mind begins to loosen its hold on the world. And tonight, lying exactly where you are standing at the edge of one of the deepest mysteries in all of science. Welcome to Sleepless Scientist Night. Wherever you are right now, perhaps already feeling the weight of the day dissolving into your pillow, allow yourself this quiet exploration. Every night, your sleeping mind builds entire worlds from nothing. We'll drift through 100 dream science facts about why we dream, from the first flicker of sleep to the vivid theater of REM, to the question your waking mind can never quite answer. These gentle journeys through dream science create a community of curious, peaceful minds. A soft like subscribe or quiet share helps other restless souls find their way here too, and brings us closer to protecting this space for every searching mind, one sleepy soul at a time. Your presence means more than you know. Now let yourself settle completely. Feel your jaw unclench. Your shoulders drop a little lower. You don't need to hold on to any of this. Just notice that warm, drowsy heaviness beginning to gather, like your mind is slowly dimming its light, thoughts losing their edges, dissolving gently into the soft fog of approaching sleep. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where memories rest safely in gentle darkness. Let your mind merge with infinite peace. And now we begin. Every single night, without exception, your brain builds a world from scratch. During the hours you spend asleep, your mind generates sights, sounds, conversations, and even physical sensations, all created from the inside out, with no input from the waking world. This internal theater has fascinated humans for as long as we have existed. What is it for? Why does it happen at all? That is the question we begin with tonight. And it is one that science, after decades of searching, is only now beginning to answer. Dreams were once thought to be messages from beyond, from gods, ancestors, or the deep unconscious. Ancient Egyptians built temples where priests slept in sacred rooms, hoping for divine visions. Ancient Greeks believed certain dreams carried prophecies. For most of human history, the dream was a spiritual event, not a biological one. That began to change only in the 20th century, when scientists first brought dreaming into the laboratory and started asking very different kinds of questions. The modern science of dreams began its transformation in 1953. In a physiology lab at the University of Chicago, a graduate student named Eugene Asarinsky had been observing sleep, first in his own young son, then in adult subjects, when he began noticing something he could not explain. The eyes were moving rapidly beneath closed lids, and the brain was active, almost as if the person were awake. When he woke the subjects, they reported vivid, detailed dreams. Asarinsky and his mentor, Nathaniel Kleitman, published their findings in the journal Science that September. REM sleep had been discovered, and with it, dream science was born. REM sleep is one of the most distinctive states in all of biology. During REM, the brain becomes extraordinarily active, in many ways resembling wakefulness more than it resembles other stages of sleep. Electrical signals fire rapidly across large networks. The visual cortex lights up. Even with your eyes closed, the limbic system, which handles emotion, surges with activity, and yet your body lies almost completely still. The muscles are temporarily paralyzed, a protective mechanism that prevents you from physically acting out whatever your dreaming mind is experiencing. Sleep itself is not a single state. Each night, your brain cycles through distinct stages. The journey begins in NREM sleep, non-rapid eye movement sleep, which itself has 3 substages. Stage 1 is the threshold, a light drifting state where the mind begins to disengage from the world. Stage 2 brings slower rhythms. As the heart slows and body temperature drops, Stage 3 is deep, slow-wave sleep, the most restorative stage, where the brain performs its most fundamental repair work. After moving through these, the brain ascends back toward wakefulness and enters REM. Then the cycle begins again. A full sleep cycle lasts roughly 90 minutes and repeats 4 to 6 times across a typical night. In the early cycles, deep sleep dominates. But as the night progresses, REM sleep grows longer and longer with each cycle. The first REM period of the night might last only 10 minutes. The final one, just before morning, can stretch to 45 minutes or more. This is why the dreams you remember most vividly tend to be the ones closest to waking. They arrive at the end of the night, when REM is at its fullest. Dreams are not exclusive to REM sleep. When researchers began systematically waking people from different sleep stages and asking what they had experienced, they found something unexpected. Reports of dreaming came from NREM sleep too. Not always, but often enough to matter. It is now understood that up to 70% of NREM awakenings produce some form of mental experience. NREM dreams tend to be quieter, more thought-like, less emotionally charged. REM dreams are longer, more vivid, more narrative, more strange. But the sleeping mind is rarely fully at rest. The brain during dreaming operates in a distinctive way that differs from ordinary waking thought. The prefrontal cortex, the region most associated with rational judgment, planning, and self-awareness, becomes less active during most dreams. This may explain why dream logic often goes unquestioned. In a dream, you might fly through a city you have never visited, speak with someone who passed away years ago, or find yourself late for an event that has already ended. And none of it seems impossible. The part of the brain that would say, "Wait, this makes no sense," is quieter than usual. The limbic system, on the other hand, becomes extraordinarily active during REM sleep. This is the brain's emotional core, the amygdala, the hippocampus, the cingulate cortex. Together they process fear, memory, pleasure, and meaning. Their heightened activity during dreaming helps explain why dreams are so emotionally textured. You don't just see things in dreams, you feel them. The sadness in a dream can be as real as any sadness. The joy, as full. The fear, as immediate. The emotional reality of dreaming is generated by the same neural systems that generate emotional reality while awake. So we arrive at the first key insight of our journey tonight. Dreams are not random. They are generated by specific brain systems, during specific biological windows, following patterns that repeat every night of your life. The machinery is real. The question that remains is why. Why does the brain do this at all? What purpose could be served by building an inner world while the outer one is left behind? The answer, it turns out, is not one thing but many. Dreams appear to serve multiple functions simultaneously, and science is still discovering what all of them are. One of the most enduring theories about dreams is that they help the brain process and consolidate memory. During wakefulness, you encounter a flood of information. Faces, facts, emotions, events. Not all of it can be kept. The brain must sort, select, strengthen, and discard. There is growing evidence that this sorting happens, in part, during sleep and dreams. Some researchers believe maybe a window into that process, a glimpse of memory in motion, being moved from short-term storage into long-term understanding. The hippocampus is a curved structure deep in the brain, and it plays a central role in memory formation. During wakefulness, the hippocampus encodes new experiences. During sleep, especially during the slow oscillations of deep NREM, it replays those experiences, sending them back out to the cortex, where they are gradually woven into the larger fabric of existing knowledge. This hippocampal replay has been observed directly in laboratory recordings. When animals learn to navigate a maze during the day, the same neural firing sequences that occurred during learning appear again during sleep that night. The brain is, in a very literal sense, rehearsing what it has just learned. The connection between dreaming and memory is not just theoretical. In a widely cited set of studies, people learn to navigate a three-dimensional virtual maze. Those who reported dreaming about the maze during the night that followed showed dramatically better performance when they returned to it the next day. The dream appeared to be doing something productive, integrating the new experience into the brain's spatial understanding. The subjects who dreamed about it were not just reliving the maze, they were learning it more deeply while they slept. A large scientific review analyzed 16 studies examining the relationship between dreaming and memory improvement. The findings were clear. People who dreamed about material they had recently learned consistently showed better memory for that material the following day. The relationship held across different types of learning: spatial tasks, verbal tasks, motor skills. Dreaming about something is associated with remembering it better. The brain, it seems, uses the dream as a kind of overnight rehearsal, but memory consolidation alone does not explain everything about dreams. If dreams were purely about replaying the day's events, they would look very different from what they actually are. Real dreams are not recordings. They mix and blend. They combine images from years ago with faces from this morning. They place you in settings that have never existed. They tell stories that follow their own internal logic rather than the logic of lived experience. This blending, this creative recombination, may itself be part of the purpose. The dream may not just be replaying memory, it may be reorganizing it. Harvard psychiatrist Robert Stickgold, who has spent decades studying sleep and memory, describes dreaming as a process of building a model of yourself and the world, that provides clues to the future and shapes autobiographical memory. In this view, the dream is not a passive replay. It is an active construction. The sleeping brain takes fragments of experience and assembles them into arrangements the waking mind would rarely attempt, finding meaning in combinations that logic might never have tried. Some researchers describe this as the brain thinking in a different register, freer, more associative, less constrained. Dreams are also shaped by emotion in ways that waking thought often is not. When something emotionally significant happens during the day, it is more likely to find its way into that night's dreams. And what happens in the dream to that emotionally charged material matters. Research from the University of California found that people who reported dreaming showed greater emotional memory processing the following morning. Those who dreamed had better recall of emotionally meaningful material and were less reactive to negative images. The dream had done something to the feeling, not erased it, but softened it. This emotional processing function of dreaming has a name in neuroscience: the affect regulation hypothesis, REM sleep. With its high limbic activity and reduced noradrenaline levels, may create a unique neurochemical environment for revisiting emotional experiences without the full force of the stress response. It is a kind of safe space within the brain, a place where difficult feelings can be reprocessed, their intensity slowly diminished, their meaning gradually clarified. The dream becomes a therapy session that no one scheduled and no one remembers in full, but which changes things nonetheless. The noradrenaline hypothesis is one of the most compelling ideas in dream science. During REM sleep, activity in the locus coeruleus, the brain's primary noradrenaline center, drops to nearly zero. Noradrenaline is closely associated with stress arousal. Its absence during REM creates a neurochemical state unlike any other in waking life. Some researchers propose that this low noradrenaline environment is precisely what allows emotional memories to be revisited and reprocessed without re-traumatizing the brain. The feeling is accessed, but the alarm is not triggered. This theory helps explain a puzzling aspect of post-traumatic stress disorder. In PTSD, certain traumatic memories appear to be locked, unable to complete the usual process of emotional softening that happens over time. Nightmares in PTSD often replay traumatic events with full emotional intensity, night after night. Some researchers believe this happens because the normal REM processing mechanism has been disrupted. The noradrenaline system remains too active, preventing the dream from doing its softening work. The nightmare is not a failure of sleep. It may be a sleep system trying and struggling to complete something. Dreams grow more emotional as the night progresses. A study published in the summer of 2025 examined emotional intensity across multiple awakenings throughout a single night. The findings were notable. Dreams reported from later in the night were significantly more emotionally charged than those from earlier. Late-night dreams were also longer and more narratively complex. The brain appears to be building towards something as the hours pass, deepening the emotional work, extending the story, processing more intently as REM sleep lengthens toward morning. What appears in a dream is not random, but it is not a simple replay either. The content of dreams follows patterns that researchers have been able to identify over decades of study. Common themes emerge across cultures and across centuries. Falling, flying, being chased, arriving unprepared for an examination, losing something precious. These recurring dream types suggest that the dreaming brain returns to certain emotional and existential concerns again and again, regardless of cultural background or lived experience. There may be something deeply conserved about what the dreaming mind worries about and wonders at. The faces in your dreams are not invented from nothing. Every person you have ever seen, on the street, in a film, in a photograph is stored somewhere in your visual memory. The dreaming brain assembles faces from this vast archive, combining features, creating composites, sometimes producing someone who feels deeply familiar, even though you have never met them in waking life. You cannot dream a truly new face. Every face in every dream is built from faces the waking self has already seen. Color is almost universal in dreaming, though older research suggested otherwise. Studies conducted in the mid-20th century, when black and white television was dominant, found many people reporting colorless dreams. More recent studies, with subjects raised in an era of color media, find that nearly all reported dreams include color. This curious shift suggests that the dreaming brain draws on the visual experience of waking life, and that the texture of the dream world is shaped, in part, by the texture of the media-saturated world we inhabit while awake. By now, a pattern is emerging in our journey. Dreams are not accidents. They are not static replays or meaningless noise. They are an active, structured biological process, shaped by the brain's need to consolidate memory, process emotion, and make meaning from the experiences of waking life. The question is no longer whether dreaming serves a purpose. The question is how many purposes it serves, and how they work together across the long, quiet hours of sleep. We are at the close of the story's beginning. The deeper answers still lie ahead. Let's pause here and notice your body. Right now, every cell in your body knows how to do this. Sleep is the oldest thing your body knows. Long before language, long before memory, the cells of living creatures learned to rest and restore. You are doing something ancient tonight, something practiced by every living being that has ever breathed on this planet. Your brain is doing what it always does in the dark, sorting, softening, building. You don't need to help it. It knows. Now we continue. Sleep researchers have long debated which stage of sleep matters more for memory. Deep NREM sleep or REM sleep. The answer that is emerging from recent science is both, in different ways, for different kinds of memory. Deep, slow-wave sleep appears most valuable for consolidating factual and declarative memories, the kind you can state in words. REM sleep, with its theta oscillations and emotional richness, seems more closely tied to integrating emotional content, abstracting patterns, and linking new learning to existing understanding. The two stages are partners in the same overnight operation. A study published in the journal Communications Biology in early 2025, supported in part by the National Institutes of Health, examined how both slow-wave sleep and REM sleep contribute to emotional memory. The researchers found that both stages strengthen emotionally charged memories, but through different mechanisms. Slow-wave sleep appears to stabilize the factual core of an emotional experience. REM sleep then works on the emotional tone, softening it, integrating it, placing it in context. The two stages, working in sequence, achieve what neither could accomplish alone. Dreams during REM sleep are longer, more narrative, more emotionally vivid. Dreams during NREM sleep, particularly at the boundary between wakefulness and sleep, tend to be shorter and more thought-like. Fragments of sentences, half-formed images, the mind still trailing the day's concerns. like the last embers of a dying fire. These hypnagogic experiences, as they are called, occur in that dissolving zone between awake and asleep, a liminal state that many people find particularly rich and strange. Some of history's most creative insights are said to have arrived in this in-between. Many inventors and artists have spoken of the hypnagogic state, the threshold between wakefulness and sleep, as a place where unusual connections arise. Thomas Edison reportedly sat in a chair, holding objects in his hands as he drifted off, so that the sound of dropping them would wake him just as he crossed into sleep, allowing him to capture whatever had appeared in that liminal moment. Whether this particular story has been embellished over time is uncertain. It belongs more to the realm of passed-down history than verified record, but it reflects something that later research would confirm. The mind at the edge of sleep reaches differently, more freely, than the mind in full daylight. Dream incorporation, the way waking experiences find their way into dreams, has been studied with increasing precision. A study published in 2025 examined what happened when participants listened to different audiobooks before sleep. During REM sleep, the brain activity of participants who had listened to the same audiobook was more similar to each other than to those who had listened to different ones. The brain, during REM, was still processing the story it had been given. The dreaming mind was not simply wandering, it was working with what the day had left behind. The relationship between waking experience and dream content follows what researchers call the continuity hypothesis. Simply put, dreams tend to continue the emotional and cognitive concerns of waking life. If you are anxious about something before sleep, it is more likely to appear in some form in your dreams. If you spent the day learning a new skill, that skill may surface in the night's mental theater. The dreaming mind is not disconnected from waking life. It is, in many ways, its continuation, carried into the dark, turned over in a different light. Creative problem-solving may be one of dreaming's less obvious gifts. There is a documented phenomenon, sometimes called the insight of sleep, where problems that seemed intractable before bed become clearer in the morning. The chemist, Auguste Kekule, reportedly discovered the ring structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake swallowing its own tail. The musician Paul McCartney claimed the melody of Yesterday arrived in a dream. These accounts are anecdotal, but they point towards something that laboratory research has since begun to support. The sleeping brain makes connections the waking mind does not. One mechanism for this may be the way REM sleep handles what researchers call associative networks. During REM, the brain appears to draw on weaker, more distant associations, linking concepts that share only indirect connections. Waking thought tends to follow strong, well-worn neural paths. Dreaming thought may wander further. It connects things that do not obviously belong together. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, those unexpected connections reveal something true. This is not mystical. It is the brain exploring a wider search space than it usually allows itself. The emotional content of dreams changes over the course of a night in ways that may reflect a progression of emotional processing. Early in the night, dreams may more directly mirror the day's experiences. As the night progresses and REM periods lengthen, dream content tends to become more abstract, more symbolic, more emotionally distanced from specific events. The brain appears to be working through material in stages, first engaging with it directly, then stepping back, then finding the larger pattern within the specific experience. The dream journey through the night has its own gentle arc. Children dream differently than adults. Infants spend a far greater proportion of their sleep time in a state thought to be analogous to REM, sometimes more than half of their total sleep time. This high REM proportion in early life has led some researchers to suggest that the REM state may play a particularly meaningful role in brain development. The rapidly forming neural networks of a young brain may need the kind of active, internally driven stimulation that REM provides. Dreaming, in this view, may be part of how the brain builds itself. As we age, the structure of sleep changes. Total REM time gradually decreases across the lifespan. Infants may spend 8 or more hours in REM-like states. Young adults typically get 1.5 to 2 hours of REM per night. By later adulthood, this often drops further, and the proportion of deep, slow-wave sleep also declines. These changes in sleep architecture have been linked to changes in memory consolidation, emotional regulation, and cognitive steadiness. Reminders that sleep is not passive, and that the shifts which come with age in the dream world have real consequences. The glymphatic system, the brain's overnight waste clearance network, is most active during deep NREM sleep. This system uses cerebrospinal fluid to flush metabolic waste products from between brain cells, including proteins associated with neurodegeneration. While this process is primarily driven by deep sleep rather than REM, the two stages work together across the night. Deep sleep cleanses. REM consolidates and integrates. The brain needs both in sequence, in the right proportions, to carry out its full overnight maintenance. Missing either stage gently disrupts the whole process. People vary considerably in how much they remember of their dreams. Some people report vivid, detailed dreams nearly every morning. Others say they rarely dream at all, though research consistently shows that everyone who enters REM sleep is dreaming, whether they remember it or not. Dream recall depends on many factors: how often you wake during or just after REM, the stability of your sleep, your general tendency towards self-awareness, even whether you expect to remember. The dream is always happening. The question is only whether the waking mind catches it before it dissolves. The act of waking interrupts a process. Dreams fade quickly, not because they were never real, but because the neural conditions that sustain them do not persist into full wakefulness. The prefrontal cortex comes back online. Attention shifts. The fragile dream structure is overwritten by the demands of the waking moment. This is why keeping a journal beside the bed and writing immediately upon waking captures so much more than waiting even a few minutes. The dream is a process, not a recording. Once the process stops, the experience dissolves. And here, at the midpoint of our evidence, we arrive at something worth pausing over. The science of dreams, for all its progress, remains unfinished. Researchers can measure brain activity during dreaming. They can identify correlates of specific dream content using advanced imaging. They can show that dreaming affects memory and emotion. But they cannot yet fully explain why the brain chose dreaming as the medium for all of this. Why it constructs this particular kind of inner experience. This story world, this felt reality, rather than processing memory and emotion in silence. The dream is both the question and the clue. You're still here, still drifting with us through these quiet corridors of the sleeping mind. Take a slow breath. Notice how your body has grown a little heavier since we began. That's the direction you're heading. Deeper. We're wandering through one of the oldest mysteries in science tonight. Slowly, gently, without needing to solve anything. Let's continue. Lucid dreaming is a state in which the dreamer becomes aware, while still dreaming, that they are in a dream. Most people have experienced this at least briefly. That sudden interior recognition, I am dreaming, that can arrive in the midst of a vivid sleep narrative. Estimates suggest that somewhere between 53 and 77% of people have experienced a lucid dream at least once. Around 23% experience them regularly, at least once a month. For a small group of trained practitioners, lucid dreaming can be achieved reliably and even gently directed. From a scientific standpoint, lucid dreaming offers something rare, a way to study the dreaming brain in real time, with the dreamer themselves as a participant observer. Lucid dreamers have learned to communicate with researchers from within the dream state, using pre-arranged signals, specific eye movement patterns or facial muscle contractions, to indicate when they have achieved lucidity. This allows researchers to correlate moments of self-awareness within the dream with specific patterns of brain activity measured simultaneously. It is one of the most unusual forms of scientific collaboration ever devised. During lucid dreaming, the prefrontal cortex, which is less active during ordinary dreams, shows increased activity compared to non-lucid REM sleep. This is consistent with the fact that lucid dreaming involves a restoration of metacognitive awareness, the ability to think about one's own thinking. The dreamer is both inside the dream and, in some sense, outside it, watching, knowing. This partial return of executive function in the midst of a dream represents a strange and beautiful hybrid state of consciousness, neither fully asleep nor fully awake. A study published in the Journal of Neuroscience in 2025 examined the electrophysiological signatures of lucid dreaming in detail, finding heightened alpha wave connectivity in posterior brain regions compared to ordinary REM sleep. The research suggests that the awareness associated with lucid dreaming involves widespread communication across brain regions that are more typically isolated during non-lucid REM. Lucidity is, in neurological terms, a more connected state than ordinary dreaming, though it remains fundamentally different from full wakefulness. The experience of time in dreams is another mystery that lucid dreamers have helped researchers investigate. Subjectively, a dream can feel like it lasts for hours, but when lucid dreamers are asked to estimate elapsed time through the number of eye signals they make, or by performing actions of known duration, their estimates tend to match real elapsed time fairly well. Dream time, at least in the sense of duration, appears to run at roughly the same rate as waking time. The sense that a dream lasted a long time may reflect its narrative density rather than any actual temporal stretching. Sleep paralysis, a temporary inability to move that sometimes occurs at the boundary between sleep and wakefulness, is closely related to the same neural mechanism that prevents the body from acting out dreams during REM sleep. During normal REM, the motor system is suppressed, keeping the body still while the mind is active. If this suppression lingers briefly into wakefulness, the person may find themselves conscious but unable to move, often accompanied by vivid, dreamlike hallucinations. This experience has been reported across cultures throughout history and has generated some of the world's most persistent folklore. Nightmares serve a function that is only beginning to be properly understood. For many years, nightmares were viewed primarily as something to eliminate, evidence of distress or difficulty. But some researchers now propose that nightmares may be the brain's most intense form of emotional rehearsal. Dreaming of loss, of challenge, of difficult situations may prepare the nervous system for hard experiences without exposing it to actual harm. The nightmare as simulation, as practice for things the waking self hopes never to face. This does not make nightmares pleasant, but it may make them purposeful. Recurring nightmares associated with PTSD appear to represent a disruption of normal dream processing rather than an excess of it. In ordinary dreaming, even difficult content tends to be processed and softened over time. The emotional charge gradually reduced across repeated nights. In PTSD, this processing appears to stall. The same content returns with the same intensity, unable to be resolved. Some researchers are exploring whether specific therapeutic approaches during sleep, targeting either the dream content or the neurochemical environment of REM, might help restart the stalled processing. The dream, in this view, is a potential site of healing. Animals dream. This is not a speculation but an observation. During sleep, rats replay the neural sequences associated with maze running during the day, with the same patterns firing in the same order in the hippocampus. Songbirds show neural patterns during sleep that mirror the songs they learned during the day. Octopuses undergo phases of rapid color and texture change during sleep that may correspond to some internal visual experience. The evolutionary conservation of REM-like states across many species suggests that whatever dreaming is doing, it is doing something meaningful enough for biology to preserve it across hundreds of millions of years. And here, at the midpoint of our journey, the answer is taking shape. Dreaming is not one thing. It is a convergence of memory and emotion, of rehearsal and release, of creativity and connection. The sleeping brain is not resting. It is integrating. It is building the self of tomorrow from the experiences of today. Every night, in the quiet dark, the work continues. You are always, in every hour of sleep, becoming a slightly different version of yourself. The dream is the evidence. The process is the purpose. And here, at the halfway point, let yourself go a little further. Breathe slowly. Your memories are not recordings. Every time you recall something, the brain rewrites it slightly, adjusting the emotional tone, the emphasis, the meaning. Memories are living things, always in quiet motion. And right now, while you rest here, your sleeping brain is doing exactly that, quietly rewriting the day, choosing what to keep, softening what needs softening, making something new from what already exists. You don't need to help it. Just let it work, and we continue the journey. Dreams are deeply personal, but they are not entirely private. Researchers who analyze dream reports from thousands of people find consistent patterns that cross cultural boundaries. Studies examining dream content across populations in North America, Europe, and Asia find similar distributions of themes: social interactions, familiar settings, movement through space, experiences of emotion. The specific content differs. The faces, the places, the details. But the underlying structure of dreaming shows remarkable consistency. Dreams may be one of the most universal human experiences. The continuity hypothesis of dreaming holds that dream content reflects the concerns, relationships, and emotional preoccupations of waking life. People dream most often about the things that matter most to them. Research consistently finds that close relationships, family, partners, friends, dominate the social landscape of dreams. Work appears frequently. Familiar settings from current or recent life appear far more often than unfamiliar ones. The dream does not escape the life. It processes it. Gender differences in dream content have been documented across multiple studies, though they appear to be diminishing as cultural differences narrow. Historically, male dreamers reported more often dreaming of strangers and physical challenge. Female dreamers reported more often dreaming of known people and verbal conflict. These patterns likely reflect differences in waking social experience more than any fundamental difference in how dreaming works neurologically. The dream continues what the waking life contains. Dream forgetting is not a failure. It may be a feature. Some theorists have proposed that the rapid forgetting of most dreams serves a useful function, preventing the dreamed experience from competing with or confusing real memories. If every dream were vividly remembered in full detail, the distinction between dreamed and lived experience could become difficult to maintain. The selective amnesia of dreaming may be the brain's way of keeping the archive organized. Real memories are kept, dream memories are, for the most part, allowed to dissolve. The relationship between sleep and creativity appears across many fields of human endeavor. Scientists report key insights arriving after sleep. Mathematicians find solutions in the morning that eluded them the night before. Writers speak of waking to find a sentence that resolves a difficulty they had been circling for days. Laboratory studies have begun to formalize these observations. Participants who sleep between problem-solving sessions consistently show more creative solutions than those who remain awake for the same duration. Something in the sleeping brain generates novel combinations that the working, focused, waking mind does not easily produce. One proposed mechanism for sleep-enhanced creativity is called remote associative thinking. During waking life, the brain tends to follow strong, frequently used associations. The word bread leads most easily to butter, to toast, to hunger, but the dreaming brain may follow weaker, less traveled paths, connecting bread to childhood, to absence, to a street in a city visited only once. These distant associations, which ordinarily lose out to stronger ones, may be where unexpected insight lives. REM, sleep, with its diffuse, wide-ranging neural activity, may give those quieter links their chance to be heard. The discovery that waking experiences can be incorporated into dreams within a single night opened new questions about how quickly the sleeping brain begins its work. Pre-sleep exposure to emotionally engaging material, an audiobook, a film, a meaningful conversation, consistently shapes the content of that night's dreams. This incorporation is not random. Material that is emotionally significant, or that was deeply attended to, is more likely to appear. The brain prioritizes. It does not simply replay everything. It selects what needs further processing. Sensory experiences from the sleeping environment can also find their way into dreams. Sounds, smells, even gentle touches applied to sleeping subjects have been shown to appear, transformed, within ongoing dream narratives. A sound becomes a doorbell. A soft vibration becomes a distant crowd. The dreaming brain does not shut out the external world entirely. It integrates incoming signals into the ongoing internal narrative, weaving the outside into the inside in ways that serve the dream's own quiet logic. The question of what controls the emotional tone of a dream, whether it will be difficult or peaceful, chaotic or calm, remains only partially answered. Mood before sleep has some influence. The content of the day has some influence. Medications that affect neurotransmitter systems can alter dream experience considerably. But there is also something less predictable. A quality of the dream that seems to emerge from its own internal dynamics. Following rules that are not yet fully known, the dream is partly shaped and partly spontaneous. Like so much of what the brain produces, dreaming and waking imagination share neural territory. When people are asked to vividly imagine a scene while awake, many of the same brain regions activate that are active during dreaming. The visual cortex, the limbic system, the default mode network, that sprawling set of regions most active when the mind is not focused on any external task. All participate in both imagination and dreaming. Some researchers describe dreaming as imagination freed from the constraints of external reality. The dreaming brain is not doing something alien to waking thought. It is doing something continuous with it, only unbound. The default mode network, sometimes called the brain's resting state network, is involved in mind-wandering, daydreaming, self-referential thought, and memory retrieval. It is most active when the brain is not focused on any specific external task. During REM sleep, the default mode network shows patterns of activity similar to its activity during waking mind-wandering. This suggests that dreaming may be, in some sense, a form of spontaneous mental simulation, a cognitive process that the brain runs during any period of reduced external demand, deepened by the particular neurochemical conditions of REM sleep. Researchers have recently begun using artificial intelligence to decode dream content from brain recordings. In studies published in 2023 and 2024, trained computational models could predict, from patterns of brain activity during sleep, whether a person was dreaming and, in some cases, broad features of what they were dreaming about. A database called DREAM, combining brain recordings from over 500 participants and more than 2,600 awakenings, was made publicly available in 2025 to support this kind of research. The era of reading dreams from the outside is only just beginning. Dream engineering, the deliberate shaping of dream content through external stimuli or internal intention, is an emerging area of research with far-reaching possibilities. Techniques include delivering specific sounds or smells during targeted sleep stages, using targeted memory reactivation, and training people in the practice of lucid dreaming so they can consciously guide dream content. If dreams help process difficult experience and consolidate learning, the ability to shape dreams could one day allow clinicians to gently direct that processing, easing recovery from grief, supporting skill learning, or reducing the intensity of recurring nightmares. Sleep deprivation selectively disrupts REM sleep. When people are chronically short-changed on sleep, as many millions are in modern life, REM is among the first functions to suffer, and the consequences reach far. Studies consistently link REM deprivation to difficulties in emotional regulation, creativity, memory integration, and mental flexibility. Some researchers describe the modern pattern of insufficient sleep as, among other things, a dream deprivation concern, a society quietly skimping on one of the brain's most sophisticated overnight processes. We now understand that dreaming is not the sleeping brain idling. It is the sleeping brain doing some of its most consequential work, quietly, in the dark. The three functions that current research supports most strongly: memory consolidation, emotional processing, and creative recombination, are not peripheral. They are central to what makes humans capable of learning, healing, and adapting. A brain that never dreamed would be, in meaningful ways, a diminished brain. The dream is not decoration. It is part of the foundation. The subjective vividness of dreams, the sense of full presence in a world that is not there, raises profound questions about the nature of reality and experience. When you are dreaming, the dream feels real. The fear is real. The joy is real. The faces are real faces, and the places are real places, to the dreaming self. The only way to know they are not is to wake. This raises a question that philosophers have held for centuries. What makes waking reality more real than dreaming reality? The content differs, but the experience of realness, that quality of full immersion, may be the same. Some researchers propose that consciousness itself, the felt quality of experience, is best understood not through its presence in wakefulness alone, but through its variation across the sleep-wake cycle. During deep NREM sleep, consciousness appears to largely recede. During REM dreaming, it returns, altered, but unmistakable. During lucid dreaming, it becomes aware of itself within the dream. This spectrum of conscious states across sleep provides neuroscientists with a natural window for understanding what consciousness is and what generates it. The dream may be one of the clearest views we have into the nature of mind itself. Animals that live in environments requiring constant vigilance have developed unusual sleep strategies that may offer clues to the function of REM. Dolphins and porpoises sleep with one brain hemisphere at a time, allowing one side to rest while the other remains alert. Migratory birds can sleep briefly while in flight. Some sharks must keep moving to breathe and appear to rest certain brain regions, while others remain active. These adaptations suggest that the brain places such high value on the functions served by sleep, including the processes tied to dreaming, that it has evolved extraordinary solutions to protect them even under the most demanding conditions. The content of dreams has been used therapeutically in clinical settings. Imagery rehearsal therapy, developed for the treatment of recurring nightmares, asks patients to reimagine the nightmare narrative during wakefulness, changing the ending, introducing new elements, reducing the emotional weight, and then rehearse this new version repeatedly before sleep. Over time, this deliberate reshaping of the waking narrative appears to alter the dream itself. The technique has shown meaningful results for nightmare disorder and PTSD-related nightmares. The boundary between the dream and the directed imagination is more permeable than it might seem. Recent research has begun to examine whether individual dream content can offer clues about mental well-being. People experiencing depression tend to report dreams with more negative emotional content and fewer positive interactions. People with anxiety often report dreams characterized by themes of threat and social evaluation. People who have recently experienced loss show dream content reflecting that loss for weeks or months. These patterns suggest that the dream is not separate from the psychological life. It is an expression of it, a nightly reflection of the mind's inner weather. The shift between sleep stages is not smooth or binary. The brain does not simply switch from NREM to REM, like a light being toggled. There are transitional moments, gradients, regions of the brain that shift earlier than others. The visual cortex often activates before the rest of the dream machinery is fully engaged. Emotional systems may begin their characteristic REM patterns, while some frontal regions are still in a lighter state. The dream does not begin all at once. It assembles itself, gradually, in the dark. The question of whether non-human animals have subjective dream experience, whether there is something it feels like from the inside, cannot be answered with current science. We can observe the neural patterns. We can see the rapid eye movements, the muscle twitches, the hippocampal replay. We cannot access the inner life. Whether there is something it is like to be a sleeping rat, replaying its day, remains open. But the neurological parallels between animal REM and human dreaming are close enough that most sleep researchers find it difficult to argue there is nothing happening at all. Dream science is undergoing a methodological shift. For decades, the primary tool was the dream report, asking people what they had experienced after waking them from specific sleep stages. This approach is valuable but limited, dependent on memory, language, and introspective accuracy. New methods are changing this. Real-time neural decoding, large-scale databases of dream reports analyzed by computational language models, targeted memory reactivation during specific sleep stages, and the unique communication channel opened by lucid dreamers together offer entirely new ways to study the dreaming mind from the outside, while the dreamer remains inside. The DREAM database, made available to the scientific community in 2025, represents a meaningful step in this methodological transformation. Combining brain recordings from hundreds of participants with standardized dream reports and AI-assisted visual approximations of dream content, it provides a shared resource for researchers across institutions and disciplines. For the first time, large-scale, cross-study comparisons of dream neuroscience are becoming possible. The era of individual small studies is giving way to something broader and more systematic. Dream science is slowly growing up. And so, 3/4 of the way through our journey, the answer to our title question is clear. We dream because we are complex creatures with complex inner lives that require tending. We dream to process emotion, to consolidate memory, to rehearse difficulty and practice creativity and find connections that waking logic would not allow. We dream because the brain never truly rests. It only changes what it is doing. And what it does in the dark is some of its most meaningful work. The dream is not the opposite of thinking. It is thinking's quiet other form. You might be feeling very still now. That's perfectly fine. Breathe slowly. Sleep does not come when you try for it. It comes when you stop trying. Dreaming does not come when you reach for it. It comes when you release. This is exactly that moment. The reaching is over. The releasing has begun. You are not working now. You are not solving. You are simply here, at the edge of the place where the mind lets go of the day and begins the quiet work of becoming again. We're almost there now. Every night, without effort, the sleeping brain rewrites you a little, not dramatically, not all at once, just slightly, adjusting the emotional weight of yesterday's experiences, strengthening memories that matter, softening those that do not, finding quiet connections between what you knew before and what you learned today. The person who wakes is not exactly the person who fell asleep. Dreams are part of how you change without noticing. The oldest known recorded dreams come from ancient Mesopotamia, written on clay tablets more than 4,000 years ago. Rulers consulted dream interpreters before making major decisions. Dreams were believed to carry messages from the divine. What is remarkable, looking back from the distance of science, is not how wrong they were about the source of dreams, but how right they were about their significance. Dreams matter. They always have. They always will. Throughout history, dreams have inspired art, literature, music, and science in ways that cannot be fully accounted for by conscious effort alone. The surrealist painters drew directly from dream imagery. Many works of fiction trace their origins to a dream. Scientific discoveries have been attributed to insights that arrived in the sleeping mind. This creative output of the dreaming brain is not accidental. The mind that roams freely in the dark finds things the disciplined waking mind cannot always reach. There is something quietly reassuring about the knowledge that dreaming is universal. Every human being on Earth, regardless of culture, language, belief, or circumstance, enters the dream state each night. The specific content differs. The languages, the faces, the landscapes, but the process is the same. In sleep, we are all doing the same fundamental thing: processing, healing, remembering, becoming. The dream is one of the most basic things we share. Over a full lifetime, researchers estimate the average person may spend somewhere around 5 to 6 years in the dreaming state, built up from the nightly accumulation of REM cycles, from childhood through old age, most of it forgotten by morning, all of it doing work. Those quiet years are not separate from life. In a real sense, they are part of living. REM sleep produces the most vivid and memorable dreams. It also produces the state of temporary muscle stillness that prevents the body from acting out those dreams. This stillness is not a flaw. It is a precisely calibrated protection. Without it, the dreaming body would move, reaching toward imagined things, moving through imagined spaces. The quiet of the dreaming body is what makes the freedom of the dreaming mind possible. Stillness and vividness, held together in careful balance. Babies move during sleep in ways that adults do not. Brief twitches of fingers, toes, eyelids, limbs. Research suggests these movements may be connected to the development of the body map in the brain. The sleeping infant, in moving spontaneously, may be helping the brain learn which body part is which, mapping the body from the inside through these small, gentle activations. Sleep may be one of the primary ways through which the infant brain builds its model of the body it inhabits. The emotional tone of dreams tends to be more difficult than the emotional tone of waking life. Studies analyzing large collections of dream reports find that challenging emotions, anxiety, sadness, confusion appear more frequently than positive ones. Some researchers interpret this as evidence that the dream's primary emotional function is processing what is unresolved rather than rehearsing ease. The sleeping brain may lean toward what needs attention, because those are the experiences that most ask for it. And yet, the dreaming mind also produces moments of extraordinary beauty. Flights through open sky, meetings with beloved faces, the quiet wonder of a perfect moment that has no equivalent in waking experience. These peaceful dreams are real too, and their contribution to well-being may be as meaningful as the processing of difficulty. A dream that left you calm upon waking has done something. The body carries the feeling of the dream, even when the details are gone. Dreams about flying are among the most commonly reported across cultures. In these dreams, the body lifts free of gravity, moves through air, looks down on the world from above. The experience is described almost universally as joyful, a freedom from constraint that is rarely felt so completely in waking life. What the brain is generating in such a dream, why it produces this particular experience, remains one of the quiet, open questions of sleep science. But the universality of flight dreams suggests something deep and shared in the human sense of what it might feel like to be fully and weightlessly free. The brain during dreaming is doing something that has no direct parallel in the waking world. It is simultaneously the author and the audience of an experience, creating the dream while being fully convinced by it. The person who is dreaming does not know they are dreaming. The experience arrives with full conviction. This total immersion in a self-generated reality is, when you pause to consider it, one of the most remarkable things the brain does. It builds a world, and then it lives in it. Sleep and dreaming are not luxuries. They are not optional activities that life can accommodate only when time permits. The brain needs this. The evidence from sleep deprivation studies is consistent and worth knowing. Extended sleep loss quietly erodes attention, judgment, and emotional steadiness. Chronic short sleep is associated with elevated risk for a wide range of conditions, and the loss of REM sleep has its own quiet consequences. Separate from general sleep loss, the dream is not decoration. It is part of the foundation. Your brain creates entire worlds while you sleep. Every night, during REM sleep, your mind constructs vivid experiences from memory fragments, emotions, and patterns accumulated across a lifetime. Characters appear, conversations unfold, landscapes emerge, places that have never existed but feel completely real, all of it generated from within. These dream worlds feel real in the moment, complete with sights, sounds, and physical sensations, yet they dissolve upon waking. Like morning mist, the sleeping brain is not resting, it is creating. The relationship between dreams and identity runs deep. The self that wakes each morning is partly assembled from the materials of the previous night's dreaming. The emotions softened, the memories reorganized, the quiet insights arrived at in the silence of sleep. In this sense, the dream is not something that happens to you. It is something that shapes you. Every morning, you wake as someone who has been quietly tended in the dark. So could dream science change how we understand ourselves? It already has. The knowledge that the sleeping brain is an active participant in shaping memory, emotion, and creativity challenges the older view of sleep as simple rest. Sleep is not the absence of thinking. Dreaming is not the absence of awareness. The night is full of mind, full of process, full of becoming. There is something humbling about knowing that so much of what makes you who you are happens without your knowledge. The dream works in silence. You cannot supervise it. You cannot direct it, except through the indirect influence of how you live your waking hours. What you experience, how you feel, what you choose to attend to. These shape the material the dreaming brain works with. The day prepares the dream. The dream prepares the next day. They are partners in a cycle you are always in the middle of. The fact that dreams occur across mammalian and avian species, and possibly further, suggests that whatever dreaming does, it was preserved over the long course of evolution. Traits that are metabolically demanding and widely conserved across distantly related species generally confer meaningful survival advantages. Dreaming is metabolically demanding. REM sleep requires significant neural energy. Its conservation across so many species, over so many millions of years, suggests its function is not peripheral. It is central to what living creatures do. Researchers are beginning to examine how dreams can be drawn upon therapeutically, not just to ease nightmare disorder, but to support broader well-being. If dreams help process difficult emotion, then approaches that enhance or gently guide dreaming could one day support recovery from grief, anxiety, and difficult experience. If dreams facilitate creative recombination, they might be drawn upon in ways we are only beginning to imagine. The dream is not just a window into the mind. It may become a doorway, a way in for healing. The simplest dream, a brief, forgotten fragment that dissolves before you can reach it, is doing the same thing as the vivid, narrative REM dream that stays with you into the afternoon. The scale differs, the clarity differs, but the underlying process is the same. The brain using the quiet of sleep to do what the noise of waking will not allow. Every dream, remembered or not, is part of the night's work. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is without purpose. And so we arrive at our last fact, and the deepest answer to our question. We dream because we are beings who need to make sense of our experience. We dream because feeling must be processed, and memory must be organized, and creativity must be given space to roam. We dream because the brain, even in sleep, is always reaching toward meaning, toward understanding, toward a version of the self that is slightly more whole than the one that closed its eyes the night before. We dream because we are alive in the fullest sense, complex, emotional, remembering, becoming, and the dream is the evidence of all of that. And so, our quiet journey through the science of dreams comes gently to a close. We traveled from that physiology lab in Chicago in 1953, where Eugene Aserinsky first recorded those unexpected eye movements in his sleeping subjects, and dream science was born. All the way to the latest work, where researchers are now drawing on DREAM databases, holding recordings from hundreds of sleepers to decode what the dreaming brain is doing from the outside, while the dreamer remains inside. We discovered that the dream is not an accident, but an architecture. That the brain working through emotion in the dark is doing something as real as anything it does in the light. That the nightly process of softening, sorting, and creating is not separate from the life you live. It is continuous with it. The dream was never the opposite of the day. It was always its quiet partner. Dreaming reminds us that consciousness is not one state, but many, a spectrum that spans the vivid certainty of waking, the shifting narratives of sleep, and the borderlands between them. Much of the healing the mind does happens in silence, in the dark, beyond the reach of the waking will. The dream holds what the day cannot carry and releases it, quietly, over the long hours of night. Without dreaming, something would go unprocessed. Something that needed to be felt would remain unfelt. Something that needed to soften would stay sharp. Tonight, that work is already beginning. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about consciousness itself, yours, right now, here in the dark, already beginning to soften at the edges, already loosening its grip on the specific, the particular, the named. Think about every dreaming mind on Earth tonight. Millions of brains, in the quiet dark, each doing the same ancient work, each building its small inner world, processing its particular load of feeling, finding its way through the night. You are not separate from that. You are part of it. Let your entire being dissolve into the space between waking and sleeping, where thought becomes image and image becomes feeling and feeling becomes nothing in particular. Just warmth, just rest, just the oldest thing your body knows how to do. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. If this gentle exploration of what happens behind your closed eyes brought you something tonight, a little more peace, a little more wonder, a little more understanding of the mind that carries you, perhaps pass it softly along. A quiet like or share might guide another restless mind here too, one dreaming soul at a time. But there is nothing to do now, nothing at all. The dreaming mind you've been traveling with tonight has been working all along. While we spoke, while you listened, the long preparations of sleep were already underway. The brain was already shifting. The boundaries were already softening. You can allow these thoughts of dreaming to fade now, like the last image of a dream at the edge of morning, present for a moment, then gently dissolving into the calm that holds everything, leaving only the quiet, unheld peace behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if the gentle weight of accumulated hours has settled around you and is simply holding you. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way memory reprocessing does, not with force, but with quiet intention, into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, the questions you brought to tonight will still be there, still becoming, still unfolding their answers slowly, the way good things do. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul, and remember, every night you sleep, your mind is doing something remarkable. Good night.